Welcome to Dad Pod, a community for dads and men.
You gotta love them boys. I'm hanging with my boys. Just me and my
All right, everybody, welcome to Dad Pod, a community for dads and men. As a reminder, we're doing this for all the fathers and men so they feel like they aren't alone, so that they can laugh a little and realize that we're all more similar than we are different. On this episode, we're going to be talking with my brother, and I'm going to be introducing him. We're finally able to get him with all the son's activities that he's got going on. He's a super busy father, which is good. Um, but yeah, we're gonna be kind of interviewing him and asking him about his experience growing up and becoming a father, and his experience as a dad of three active boys, and getting his advice on. Well, at least I want to hear the advice on how he handles going to all these activities pretty much during the week and through the weekend. So excited to interview him. Hopefully, uh, you guys will be able to glean some things from this, and we're excited to bring him on. So uh, again, here with me as well is my dad and co-host Troy, and so excited to have him on and help us uh, come together as the Holmes boys and talk about some life experiences.
Yeah, I get to sit
So
through the dad badgering here that's going to probably go on. So
awesome. So yeah, Kyle, so we'll kind of start out. So tell us a little bit, Kyle, about growing up in the early '80s. I've heard a few stories about growing up with a 20-year-old parents who didn't quite know what they were doing in the middle of school. But tell me about what you remember and kind of what shaped you as you remember growing up.
Um, I, I don't remember a lot. I do remember going with dad a lot of places to, I don't know, he had school or whatever he had going on. I remember taking walks with him. I remember taking walks with mom where we lived by the park. I remember little snippets of things. I knew a lot of people where dad worked. Um, I remember saying hi to everybody. Everyone knew who I was. So, I mean, there's one story that is famous in our family that I remember in particular. Dad and I were walking to the Drayson Center. I think, Dad, is that right?
oh, is this the dollar story?
Yeah.
No, when mom was working across the street at the Comfort Inn from the stadium. We were walking down there to see her at work.
Was that on
Oh,
Bulldog, right? That was
That was
off of
on
Bulldog and
University Avenue. We were walking from the Marriott Student Housing.
I just
We
remember
were
being
walking
on the
down
sidewalk,
past the Marriott Center. Yeah, we were walking down there, down that way.
and I don't know why I said Drayson Center. That's California.
It is.
Um, no, what's the bowling alley where the
Oh, that's
bowling
the
alley is at
Marriott.
BYU?
that's the
Wilkinson.
Wilkins.
Yeah, I thought that's
Oh
where you were
yeah.
going.
No,
So we were walking down the road. I remember passing some sort of street sign. It must have been a
a
I don't
bus.
know, realty sign or something.
Yeah.
And just past that, I saw money on the ground, and I went over and picked it up. And I remember showing Dad, "Hey, Dad, look at what I found." And Dad's, "Oh my gosh, wow," you know. And then I
Dinner.
gave it, I gave it to him, and I was like, "Hey, can we get a treat later?" I remember asking that. I remember, "Oh, I will be able to get a treat now," you know. And Dad looks down at me and he said, "Oh yeah, we'll see." And I didn't think anything of it, like, okay, whatever. And I'm sure I forgot. It's like goldfish memory. Just 30 seconds later, totally forgot about it.
Right.
And then, yeah, and then later on down the road, as I got older, I asked him about it, and he said, "Oh yeah, it's funny because I was torn because I really wanted to buy you that treat, but I knew that it would feed us buy us 5 boxes of macaroni and cheese, and we'd have dinner instead of buying candy. So, and I didn't know any different. I just thought, oh, it's cool. I found money. I want some candy, and
To my
so
everlasting shame.
so I ended up buying dinner for the family that week. Dinner's on me this week.
Five
Hey,
boxes of macaroni and cheese for $1. That's what you could get back in the day.
yeah, I mean, if we're going back to dad's childhood, that would be, hey, he's carrying his load.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I remember a few things, little bits and pieces here and there. I remember when I was young, I don't know if you guys took me to, it was like maybe a preschool. I don't think it was kindergarten, unless you guys are looking to put me in a kindergarten up here in Utah. I don't know, but I remember playing as you guys were talking with teachers or whoever it was. There was like a little like excavator or something in the back in the sandbox, and I was playing on that as you guys were talking about um, whatever with the teachers. I also remember there's another popular, famous Holmes story of dad spinning me on one of those things you stand up on
Tell
and you
that
hold
one.
it.
Tell that one because
It
we
was up
talked.
here in Utah.
Yeah, we
I know
talked last
that.
time about your dad being Superman, and I told a story about him catching a football, and anyway, yeah, tell
Oh
the story
yeah.
for a good
So
one.
because I definitely thought that. I was like, my dad's a superhero. There's no way. So I was on one of these spinny things, and you hold on to it, and it used to be in those playgrounds that had like a little like
Handrails,
upside down U that you just hang on to, and
so
someone
like
can
a
spin you on it.
handrail with spins. Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember telling dad, "Oh, hey, spin me faster, faster," and dad wasn't looking. He was just working hard at spinning me really fast. And I remember at some point I'm holding on to this thing with both my arms. I'm giving
Well,
it a
you were in the
huge hug.
center, right?
No, I was standing on the outside holding on to one of the handles.
Oh, you're on the outside. I thought you were on the inside.
No, because
Yeah,
there's
yeah, yeah.
nothing in the middle. They're just these little handles on the
Right.
outside of the thing. And so I
So you're
remember
using
getting to a
full G
point where
forces.
I'm having to give it a big bear hug because I'm like, I can't hang on to this thing anymore. And then it got to a point where the G's started pulling me. So I was fully extended, my arms, hanging out, and I'm doing this number going around in circles. And I remember in my mind thinking, this is going to hurt really bad
Oh
because
yeah,
I'm not going to be able to hold on anymore.
like a
So I remember
cartoon, dude. It's
thinking,
like a Tom
yeah,
and Jerry cartoon or something,
yeah.
man.
So I just remember thinking, okay, if this goes the way I think it's going to go, and it's weird because at that age you think you wouldn't be able to think that way, but in my head I'm thinking, okay, just prepare yourself for some big pain because this is really
How
going to
old were
hurt.
you?
I don't know, I had to be like 3 or 4, I think.
Yeah, he was little. He was probably 4, maybe. Yeah, maybe. But I think he was 4, about 4 years old. I do remember it specifically. After Kyle tells his version, I'll add some color on my side.
So yeah, so I just remember thinking, okay, mentally preparing myself for the incoming pain. And then right as I couldn't hold on anymore, I let go, and no joke, super dad catches me, and I thought, how did that even happen? He really is a Superman because I mean, what are the odds of me spinning around at 100 miles an hour on that thing, and I end up letting go right as where he's at, and he's able to catch me, unless he just took me right as I let go. I don't know, but I yeah,
Well, it's
I just
like
remember
out of the 360 degrees in the circle, he could
yeah.
probably catch you out of the 5 degrees or so, maybe 10 degrees at most.
Right.
The
That's
middle
why it
part
was
of the
crazy to
pie.
me
I
because there was other
specifically
toys around too, and I thought I'm gonna fling into one of these toys and kill
You're gonna get
myself.
plastered.
Yeah,
It's gonna be that.
it's gonna
I
be
do
like a
Literally a Tom and
cartoon, and
Jerry
it just
moment.
like slide down,
Yeah, exactly. It's the Tom and Jerry
Yeah.
flattened and you slide off.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that's exactly what I thought was gonna happen to me.
Yeah, I do remember that day because I remember Kyle saying, "Spin it faster, faster." I'm like, "Okay." And so I was just bearing down and just really, and just going as far as I could. And then I looked up and I see him. He's literally horizontal to the ground. I'm like, I know my face was like, "Oh no!"
I
And
was
then,
perpendicular to the ground. Just,
yeah, he was parallel to the ground.
I mean, sorry, parallel. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and so.
Your eyes pop out of
So
your
I
head.
go, oh no, he's coming off, and so I stepped forward, and it was good timing because he was letting go, and I just happened to be there, just caught
Yeah,
him.
I mean, I literally just let go. It's like I can't hold on anymore.
Well, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, or else it would clobber you too, Dad. If you're standing there spinning it, he would have hit you, right?
Yes. So it happened really fast, and it just happened to be
And and
he went.
I'm pretty sure it wasn't because I felt him catching me and I let go. I'm
Well, yeah, because
almost
you
positive
couldn't
in
hold
my
on.
head. Yeah, I'm almost positive in my head is like, hey, I can't hold on anymore. This is gonna be the result. I'm gonna be in the hospital or whatever, die. I don't know.
Well, yeah, you're experiencing, 8 Gs.
And that's probably why I remember because it was a traumatic thing in my mind from such an
Yeah,
early point of my life. Like I said, I was going through the thought process at that
I'm
age,
gonna
going,
die.
okay, I'm
Yeah,
gonna really hurt myself here. So
right.
just prepare yourself for the pain. And at that age is weird. But
That's
s-
that. That's that typical. That's like those videos that you see of dads being awesome or whatever the like dad moments are, where the dads are like
yeah,
catching the,
like
the
a
kids
split
before
second,
some
right?
tragic thing happens. It's like
yeah,
it's like
because we're
some innate
stupid. What
instinct
else?
somehow.
Yeah,
It's like
100%.
mothers. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like it's like mothers have this crazy instinct to know what's going on, and dads have this crazy instinct to catch their kids from tragedy.
Yo,
Yeah,
yeah, because
it's
we grew
close
up
for
being
sure.
boys. That's why.
Yeah.
But I know there's 8 years difference between Kyle and you, Clay. But so I used to take. I mean, I was a student. We were young, and I used to take Kyle everywhere because I couldn't afford paying a babysitter. So you're coming with me. Mom's going to
Definitely
work.
can't afford it now either.
Yeah, no, I know. So he's going with me. I remember I worked as an intramural supervisor. So we had all these sporting events, and BYU's big, 35,000 students. We had 500 basketball teams. It was crazy. And so I used to take him to the gym with me, and I organized tournaments and whatnot. He'd go to the football tournaments and whatnot too. So people would be saying hi to him. I had no idea who they were, but Kyle was a friendly kid, and he would just talk to people and whatnot. I was like, "Who's that?" "Oh, that's my friend Kevin." I'm like, okay, okay. It's like, stay close to me, Kyle. Afraid someone's gonna walk off with him, or something. But he was
That's
people loved
hilarious.
him. It was fun, and um, from my perspective, and this isn't about me, but I enjoyed that time because Kyle was my buddy. I mean, I just took him everywhere, and I don't know if he remembers that kind of stuff, but anyway, I don't want to.
Yeah, I remember yeah, Dad and I did a lot. I remember I was always with him. I didn't know why. I mean, I didn't know what was going on or what, you know, why that was, but I have memories of going everywhere together. So,
Do you remember, Kyle? Do you remember sitting on the? Because we lived in the married student housing, so there's these apartments, and I'm sure our neighbors hated me, because it was right around nap time or something. But I took Kyle outside, and he had this little push cart, and then you remember
oh
those
yeah,
plastic bubble.
Smurf. It was a Smurf push thing.
So, and the
Yeah.
thing would make
And it
noise like
would,
it was like a choo-choo train, so it would make noise, and
yeah,
I'd get
yeah.
down, I would sprint as fast as I can, and I'd hold him,
Yeah,
so
we
he
go
wouldn't.
around the quad or the sidewalk or whatever, around the
That's
park.
that thing would make so much noise, and it was quiet. Sure, it was not time, but what did I know? I was a clueless dad. I was like, oh, I
Yeah,
should.
I do remember that only because I didn't like how loud that thing was because how fast we were going.
Yeah,
It's
it
like
was.
the guy
It
with
was
the loud car in the neighborhood that always has to rev his engine.
Yeah.
Except it was dad
I
I
running
wasn't
with
very.
Kyle
remember
on that little popper thing,
I
dude.
remember
Yeah,
learning how to ride a bike without training wheels on that quad, going around
yeah,
the sidewalk that went around right there was like a little park there, something
yeah. It was.
like
There's.
park toys or something.
Yeah, it was a four-building complex. So it was the apartment buildings, one, two, three, four. So it was, and then the center was grass and a little playground and whatnot. And so
Yeah,
there's a
playground. And
going
then the
around.
sidewalk that went around the playground. Yeah, and I remember learning how to ride my bike without training wheels around that
Yeah,
playground.
yeah. I remember that we bought
So,
like
how do you think those experiences specifically, now that we're on that topic, or do you think, I guess, that those experiences going around with that and kind of meeting people shaped the way that you've led your life from I guess a social standpoint, but also where you go with your career and how do you think that that shaped part of who you were or who you are?
I don't know. I never really thought about it that way. I just thought it was a normal thing, to be honest. I didn't know any different, you know. So
Mhm.
dad took me places, we did things together, and um, it's hard to remember a lot of that stuff, but I remember some of it. But I just thought it was normal. I didn't think anything different. So um, I do think it helped in the fact that it wanted to make me be more involved dad, to make sure that what is important to my boys is important to me. So if even if they like something that I don't like, I try to at least force myself, for lack of a better word, to participate in the things that they enjoy. And there's been some of that, and I'm sure dad has some of that too, where he's like, yeah, I don't really want to do that, but I'm going to do it because they like it or it's important to them. So
I'll call it soccer.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, and that's baseball for me. So
Yeah, right. So yeah, we coached your teams, we refereed your teams, because you guys liked it. So yeah,
Yeah.
and I enjoyed it too. I mean, I enjoyed. It gives me happiness when I know you're happy, when you're enjoying it and getting some fulfillment, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. That makes me happy. So
right, and that's
Yeah,
how I
it doesn't
feel.
stop really thinking about yeah, and that that doesn't stop from the time that they're babies because for me like like Levy, right? I seek all that I can to get him to smile or laugh. It's like, man, that's all I want is to get him to smile or laugh. And I know you guys have done that with your kids. That I imagine that that continues, like you just said, right? It's like, well,
yeah,
I just want to kind of see that pop out, in whatever they're doing and whatever it is. I couldn't care less as long as it's a meaningful endeavor and not something detrimental to their health or, you know. But
yeah, and I'll say
yeah,
the reverse of that is true too, Clay. I really ache when my children are suffering. When they're going through challenges or hard times, it really bothers me. I want to fix it. I want to do it, and that's not necessarily what I am supposed to do because there's learning that has to happen, and they have to kind of you guys have to do and figure things out on their own. Not that I'm not supporting or wouldn't help, but I know that I feel that pain when I know you guys are going through those things. So,
yeah,
and I'm sure you will too with your sons and daughters, or daughter Clay. Sorry, Kyle.
yeah.
Sometimes they act that way.
uh, yeah. So, okay. So yeah, you have some of those kind of crucial things growing up. You became obviously a teenager. Um, did you have anyone that stood out to you? Obviously you had dad and grandpa, and I know Papa obviously played an influence in some of the other more masculine things you did, right? You guys went fishing, I know. Um, but what other experiences that did you have, or kind of key things, or even people that you looked up to, uh, from I guess from a masculine standpoint uh, that you remember that kind of shaped, I guess, some of your actions going forward, because you were eventually preparing to go serve a mission, right? For the church for a couple of years. What can you tell us, kind of what that was like?
Yeah, so outside of, dad and papa and grandpa and um, somebody who actually I thought about the other day was Uncle Eric, dad's brother. He was a very fun uncle, a funkle.
Yeah, the
He
fungal.
he he made I don't know, he always made time or tried to make time when I was younger. I remember when grandma used to live in Altaloma, where dad grew up. Eric was still there and we'd visit. We'd go, it would be Christmas or Thanksgiving or whatever it was. And Eric always had toys. He always had motorcycles or he always had his big 4Runner or truck with big tires on it. We'd go to the mountains or whatever it was. But I remember one time he got this dirt bike, and he was he's like, "Hey Kyle, do you want to go on a ride? Just hold on." Okay, sure. Put the helmet on. Of course, I've got a adult size helmet on a dirt bike riding behind my uncle.
Going 100 miles an hour because he
So
has
Well,
no
it gets
stop.
it gets better. It gets better. So I was young, right? I don't know. I mean I know I was young because yeah, I don't think you were born yet, Clay, but Eric, being Eric, decides I'm going to do a wheelie all the way down the street with Kyle on the back holding on to me. So I remember him going down the street. He went down the road, and then he was about to turn around. He said, "Okay, Kyle, I want you to hold on tight." And so I knew it was Uncle Eric, and I didn't. Okay, if Uncle Eric says hold on tight, I better hold on tight because he's going to do something stupid. Sure enough, I'm holding on just kind of like that little circle playground thing, and he
Having some
starts doing
PTSD memories.
he starts doing a wheelie down the street, and I'm like holding on for dear life. I'm thinking, okay, if he goes a lot longer, I'm not going to survive this. I'm going to have to fall off again. So I had to yell at him, "Stop! I can't hold on anymore." And so he finally went down, but I mean, I'm pretty sure he's going down the entire street doing a wheelie with me on the back of it, just holding on for dear life.
And he was just laughing.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
with the Uncle Eric laugh, yeah, 100%. So
We'll
I'd
have
say
him
Eric. I
on.
mean, I mean, anytime I'd call him and want to do something, he was down for it. And so I remember him being a big part of that growing up. Just I mean, probably because one, I was the only one kind of nephew around that he had, and Janelle too. I mean, Janelle and I had did a lot of things, not masculine, but you know,
Kind of.
Yeah. Well, she was kind of
in
like
a
a guy.
way, in
She's
a way, she was very tomboyish, and so we did a lot of things together too. But I mean, I enjoyed fishing with Papa. He would take me, even though Papa was a terrible fisherman, at least with me, he never caught any fish. We never caught any fish. But
Because
I
he
just
wanted you to
enjoyed,
have them all. He was a good grandpa.
well, yeah, I just wanted to go. It was just fun for me to go fishing with him. I knew it was going to be fun because I was hanging out with my papa, so we'd go, and
right.
he didn't like to go locally. He didn't like to go somewhere close. We'd wake up at 3 in the morning and we'd drive to who knows where, and and so it was always, something going on. I'd spend the night at their house. We'd wake up really early in the morning and we'd go fishing up in, 2, 3 hour drive away from wherever we were. So that was always fun.
That
Um,
was my dad. He did that with us too when he could. But he really enjoyed the grandkids. I'm really sad that he passed before, Clay, you and Emily were able to really get to know him. He loved being with Kyle. He absolutely loved it. And he was a different guy because he wasn't retired then, was he? He retired maybe a little bit before the end,
he,
just barely. But yeah, he would take every opportunity to come out and spend time with Kyle. And out of all of the brothers or of my brothers, Eric is most like, well, if I had to ping or pit, one of us most like my dad, Eric's probably most like him.
well, and thinking about it too, Gramps, Grandma's dad.
Did you remember him?
I Oh yeah, he died when I
Ooh,
was
he died in like
He died after.
97.
when I was 14 or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he died
He was like,
after my dad, so he was around longer.
So I remember spending time with him, and boy, he could tell a story. And anytime I could, I remember I wanted to hear him tell a story, and he was really good at it. And so
Yeah,
he lived with Papa and Grandma for a while, and I was always over there, always at Grandma and Papa's house. And Gramps was always there. Eric was always there. I was there for the big
earthquake.
yeah, where was that? The North,
Was in like in
the 7-4, but what was it? Where was the center?
well, that was
I don't
that
know.
was that was Landers. That
Yeah,
was
yeah, I
they
was
were
spending the night at their house.
their house at that time.
Yeah, because Eric, had a bunch of aftershocks,
Yeah, yeah.
and Eric was there, and I remember one of the big aftershocks, and Eric just grabbed me with one arm and ran outside with me outside the house. But yeah, Gramps was fun to listen to. he had a lot of great stories. I love spending time with him. I remember one time Papa kind of gave me a rough elbow because I didn't know any better. I was younger, and Papa, when he lived with them, Gramps was semi-deaf, and Papa was loud. He was just very loud. And Papa would have his tea and his cranberry every morning, cranberry juice, and he'd sit at his breakfast counter,
Yeah.
and Gramps would walk in, and Papa would hey Johnny, really, really loud. And I thought that's just, and so I did the same thing. Hey Johnny, I was a little kid. And Papa gives me this hard elbow to the side. No, you don't call your elders by their first names. And that was the first time. That was the first time I've ever seen Papa like semi mad at me. He'd
Oh yeah.
never been, but he
With
was very stern with it. Yeah, he gave me a rough elbow and just like, no, you don't call your elders by their first name. And I was like, oh, because I didn't know any better. Yeah, I was really
You're just
young.
copying.
Yeah, just
Mhm.
so he said it at 2,000 decibels. It's like, okay, I better do what Papa does. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's
That was
funny.
fun though. I remember that from Papa too. He'd always have a cookie drawer. Go to his house and he'd have a cookie drawer and he'd tell me to help myself with cookies. Um, he thought it would be funny to let me try cranberry juice because he thought I'd make the bitter sour whatever face, and it backfired on him and I ended up liking it. And to
Yeah,
this day I love cranberry juice
me too. Yeah,
because of Papa. So, and then he'd
that's
always make tea. He'd have
Tea.
his little tea kettle, and it would,
Yeah.
whistle Dixie in the morning, and he'd make his tea every morning, and I always thought that was funny, but yeah,
Yeah.
well, yeah. I mean, that kind of is a testament to even how we grew up. It's hard for me to call people, dad's age, your age, dad, like the people who we grew up with as adults,
Yeah.
or as them being adults. I still can't call
yeah.
them by their first name. I know I'm
Still
supposed to, but I
Mister
can't. You're
or
still
or
brother.
brother.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Mr. or brother. I
That's
can't.
good
It's
because then
hard.
I taught you right because I agree with that philosophy.
I know it
Yeah.
bothers me nowadays. At church they just call the leaders the youth call their leaders by their first name, and I always try to do brother or sister, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
it doesn't stick.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that's definitely from Papa's time period. So that's cool. That's a cool
Yeah.
story. I didn't know that one. Um, so yeah, so I mean, yeah, Uncle Eric. Hopefully, we'll get Eric on as well.
Oh, he'd be great.
Oh,
Yeah.
he'd love to. Yeah.
It'd be fun to get us all on
You know,
there.
one before you move on, one that I want to give shout out to is Uncle Sam as well. I spent so much time at their house. He was like another dad to me. I was there all the time, and you know what? He was very generous and kind, and we did a lot of things together with him too. So, he helped shape me, and even going to his mom's house. Oh my gosh, Grandma Mary, going to their house. But Sam did a lot of things. We'd go to his house and he'd cut my hair. Chad and I, he'd cut our hair. We'd have the same haircuts. And summertime, it was buzzes. We'd just buzz our head and play in the pool. And yeah, so
He's the one that did all the Pinewood Derby junk that we had to do.
yeah. And
Always
anytime
good
I
with
had
him.
Pinewood Derby, he'd help me out with that.
Well, he's a talented individual.
He is very talented for
Yeah.
sure, for sure.
So yeah, that's cool. So you learned. I mean, if you had to reflect on your time, with Chad and Jill and Sam's, what would you take away from those things that you learned from Sam?
Um, I wouldn't be able to know, like it wasn't a thing I'd learned when I was younger, but looking back
Right.
now that I'm as an adult, I think what impresses me most about him is um, his testimony and activity in the church based on what his family and things, how he grew up and the things that happened, with his dad and his brothers. His brothers went through a lot of struggles, still, are struggling with things, and um, and then taking on. another child that wasn't his kid, and
He even did that with Eric too, right? So
yeah, treating me and Eric like we were one of his own. And obviously and it went both ways, right? It was good and bad. I got in trouble many times, at his house, and Sam treated me just like he would treat one of his kids. So that to me is impressive because that's hard. Any kid that's not my own that comes to my house is kind of a even family. It's like, oh, you know, you don't really treat them. It's hard to treat them the same way as you would treat your children. And so for Sam to do that for me, I thought was, now looking back and seeing that, it is a Christ-like charitable kind of a attribute that he has.
Yeah, I love that because as we look at studies, and I'll have these resources on our website, but there's a really cool study that was done by Harvard that talks about that specifically, that even, fatherless homes, it just shows how criminality skyrockets in the youth. But even having a father figure like Sam, or being that person to a troubled young man, or not necessarily troubled yet, but just having being a strong father figure or masculine figure in the neighborhood has an effect on criminality as well. And that was that. So that study just went further into that, which is really cool.
Hmm.
And so that idea, I'm glad you touched on that, because that's something that I can take away from that. That it's like you have to try to be a good man, if you're going to be in the community as
Yeah.
well, right? Because you
Yep.
never know what other young men are going to be looking up to you. You never know, right? You have that story, Dad, about your friend that you defended and you never thought anything of it, and then he
yeah,
comes up to you years later, right? And that's the sort of thing, uh, that's a good reminder to me to, hey, be a good person and a good good father figure, or whatever you want to say there. Fill that in with a good man, to other young men, because they, it extends far beyond, even if they have a father, right? It never hurts.
yeah.
Right.
I'm pretty sure my dad was grew up that way with neighborhood dads, just kind of watching out,
Yeah.
just to keep an eye on him. One, probably to keep him out of trouble, or to watch to see if he got in trouble, and two, just to be there for them. I'm sure they, fed him at times and whatnot, because you know the story. He grew up without a dad, but so yeah, and we used to go out with Jill and Sam. We went everywhere with them, all
Yeah, we were with
vacation.
them all the time.
I mean, camping, yeah, all the time. So I owe a lot to those guys.
Hopefully we can get Sam on here too if he's willing. That'd be cool.
Oh, I'm sure he would. Yeah, we'll have to get him on.
It'd be
He's
fun
a
to
good
talk
guy.
to him as well.
We just lost Jill this last year, which was a big blow to our family. Um, she was like the matriarch, second in line, I guess, to her mom, grandma. Yeah. So that was a big loss, and I know Sam's challenged with that, and so is his family. So he'll
Yeah.
have perspective for sure.
Yep. Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, that's a good takeaway there. So, kind of transitioning, right? You went to Australia for a couple years, learned a lot of cool things. That's kind of
Now
skimming
some
over
not
very
so
quick.
cool.
Got to fight some spiders, an infested apartment. um, and then yeah, tell us you got back, you got married. What, yeah, tell us about kind of your journey of being a man once it was time to kind of almost grow up, right? It's like, hey, well, now it's upon me to grow up, right? How did that go, and what was
Well,
that part of your life like?
since we're talking about it, it's important, you know, to be a good father, have a good father around for that. But also, it takes a village, like we were talking about, right? So I had a great seminary teacher my senior year in high school who really helped because seminary for me, the first 3 years I had 50 teachers.
Mm.
And to no one's fault, because in California it's different because it's a calling. It's not a job.
Yeah, you
But
don't
my
get
senior
paid.
year, yeah, my senior year teacher, he was amazing. He was younger, he could relate, and so he really, I think, kind of helped me transition more into a spiritual mind. Not that dad wasn't doing that, but having that extra, you know, and he just, yeah, he made it fun. And so that really helped me. And then serving a mission, give credit to my mission president, same thing. My mission president, I didn't know how a mission president went. I didn't know how long they served. I just knew for some reason in the back of my mind, I only want one mission president. And God blessed me that way. And I had one mission president. So he and I had a good relationship, and he really helped me on my mission as well. Um, you know, make goals, focus on what's important, do the right thing. His famous saying that I'll always remember to this day is always remember to stand in the light so when God needs you, he knows where to find you. And so that to me has stuck with me ever since he said that. So, and then, yeah, I feel like because of those things, dad and, seminary teacher and mission president, I was able to, by God's grace, get to a point where I was able to find Jenny, and I was blessed to find her. And um, she is an amazing wife, has blessed me with three awesome boys. We, getting married, and husbands don't come with warranties. I got sick, and she stuck by my side, and we've been through hell and back together, and
Yeah,
so
I want to interrupt you, Kyle, here because I know you're going to be humble about this and you're minimizing what you just said, really. But 1 year into their marriage, Kyle was diagnosed with ALL, which is acute lymphoblastic leukemia. And it was acute because we were supposed to go on vacation, and he had been losing weight and was sick for a while, but he was going to school and working like, like we consider all people are supposed to do, right? And we were going to go on vacation, and he had to go in. He says, "I'm really feeling sick." I said, "Well, go into the urgent care, and maybe they'll give you some fluids, and you can come join us." And they kept him there. They said, "Oh, something's wrong," and so they wouldn't let him go. And later on, we found out if he would have gone, he probably would have been past the point of no return. So it was really quite a miracle that he went in, and he had to begin treatments immediately. And for the next 4.5 years, 5 years, he was undergoing treatments for leukemia, chemo every day, bone marrow biopsies. It was pretty horrific. I'll never forget it to this day. But the one thing I want to say about him during this time was he wasn't allowed to work. So he was supposed to keep his interactions with community at minimum. So he says, "Well, what am I supposed to do?" I said, "Well, keep going to school," which I look back now and I'm glad he did it, but it's pretty amazing that he was able to get his bachelor's degree and his master's degree while undergoing treatment.
it was
You know,
got
I
Yeah, that,
part of my master's degree. I didn't. It was just
didn't
my
quite finish
bachelor's
it,
degree.
yeah, but with how
which
much
is,
energy drain, oh man, I
and
thinking about that
I
now,
pressed
man,
him
that's
to, I
crazy.
said,
It was
"Keep
probably
going."
stupid.
Yeah,
Well,
no,
no, I
Wasn't
mean,
smart.
I did that
I
to
had to
him.
do something. I was going crazy. I had to do something. I couldn't sit and loathe myself and feel bad for myself. So, I
Yeah,
I begged my doctor, and he said, "Okay, yeah, you can go to school." So I did an uh, evening adult program for working adults. So it was like from 5 to or 6 to whatever, 10:30 at night, or I don't know, I don't remember, something like that. So I
yeah, but
slogged my way through it.
yeah, but I mean, that is that's like something to put on a resume. I know you don't think that's something to put on a resume, but that's absolutely something that like you would say in a job interview because like to dig deep and find that energy or find that will or determination to do something while you're being poisoned to death. Well, yeah, I mean, while the cancer is
yeah,
being poisoned
chemo.
to death and you're being poisoned to death, hopefully defeating the cancer before you, right? That takes some level of constitution.
Well, I don't
You
think
know,
people know if you don't see it or if you're not familiar with it, you don't really know. But he was sick. I mean, he was
yeah,
nigh
I
unto
mean,
death. I mean, he just looked like death sometimes.
I
And
felt that way. I
you
certainly
smell
felt
like
yeah,
that
death,
way.
you look like death.
yeah, and literally so. I mean, the doctor said, "I'm going to take you on the brink of death, and I'm going to, pull you back." And
That's what he
so
did, yeah.
I remember just that was those were hard times, and I'm not trying to make that part of what this is. And I didn't feel it. I wasn't walking in your shoes, and I can only imagine trying to, study for a test and being as sick as you are, as what you were to try.
Well, the good thing was I did that program because I didn't have to take tests because I'm special K when it comes to tests. So,
Well,
but
well,
yeah, I did that program because it didn't have any tests. So that was for my benefit. So,
Well, that's good. Well,
yeah, I remember
yeah.
seeing I remember taking you to one of your spinal taps. I still remember that long A needle, dude,
oh
going
yeah, good
going
times.
into your back, and I was
One of
fascinated,
five, 1 of 500.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, but that's a cool subject to. I'm glad we talked. Yeah, at least we got your perspective on it because that takes a level of that takes a level of determination and pulling out that level of constitution that really I hope that reaches a lot of people, whether they have cancer, and if they're listening to this and you have cancer, you can get through it, or whatever trials you guys have going on, you can dig deep and find you can find it within yourself. It is
Well,
possible because I know for a fact you're just a normal human being,
yeah, yeah.
but
But
through that,
that's what it is, right? That's what it is.
exactly,
We're all
exactly
learning,
right.
we're all going to go through whatever it is we're going to go through. And, I feel like part of being, a man or, I felt like, okay, this is something I have to do. No matter the circumstance I'm in, I'm going to have to try and take care of my family. And I
Right.
don't have kids yet, but Jenny had to quit her. She just started a new job that very day I went into the hospital. She started a brand new job and she had to quit because she had to take care of me the first 6 months. And so I felt like, okay, now I have to dig deep and start, because if I don't, I'm going to be way behind the 8 ball. So, as a
Yeah.
man, I felt like, all right, this is part of what I need to do to take care of my family. So,
Oh, that's great. That's great perspective. Really, I mean, I'm not going to say that I was what a great experience. What a great experience.
but
But
it
No,
ended
what,
up being.
what great learnings. Yeah. That
But yeah,
shaped
but it
who
ended
you
up
are.
being, yeah, for sure, because that's exactly, you think you have an idea, even being members of the church and understanding God and Jesus and those things, you think you have a grasp on that, but then you go through something like that and it still shapes and changes the way you see things and the way, you look at life.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep. You take trials to the next level. And what's cool is I think you'll be able to take that wisdom with you when you are parenting, right? There's these things that you can now say that you wouldn't have been able to say or feel or experience before going through that. So helping your boys through what's to come is going to
Right.
be priceless.
Yep, for sure.
Um, so speaking about that, I know we're coming up on time here, uh, but there's a couple things I want to ask about you becoming a father, especially having gone through that, not knowing whether you'd be able to be a father,
Right.
right? If you're willing to share some of that, I'd love to hear. And I know each birth is amazing, and you love your kids. I want to hear what it was like for you, and I want everyone who's listening who may not even be a father yet, but part of the glory that I hope that people can feel from this podcast is some of that joy that comes from becoming a father for the first time. So it's going to be especially cool for you. So I want to hear that experience when you found out that once you're hey, she's pregnant, that's amazing, or and then obviously going into the birth and kind of transitioning into your boys becoming older.
Yeah, so when I was sick, I was told the chemo could make me sterile. So that was scary because we'd always planned to have children. And the fortunate thing was, because I worked at the hospital where I was treated, I knew a lot of the people there. And the charge nurse in the cancer unit was a friend of mine. And she, said, "Hey, I don't want to overstep my bounds here, but I'm going to say that this could happen. You may want to, use the sperm bank." And it's not anything we were told by anybody. And
Yeah.
um, so we ended up deciding to do that. And so by the time I was done with chemo, I was tested, everything was fine. We didn't end up needing to go that route. But um, Jenny had gotten pregnant, and it was like 10 weeks later she had miscarried. And that was devastating because it felt like, oh my gosh, here we go again. I'm not sick anymore. Now we finally got, she got pregnant, and we were really excited, and all the emotions that go into that. And then
Hmm.
to have that happen was difficult. And so it was like, almost felt like, oh, what else is gonna go wrong
Yeah.
here? What else is gonna happen? And so you go through that roller coaster, and then she got pregnant again, and we were kind of, cautiously optimistic, and um, you know, we didn't want to say anything to anybody for a little bit, and finally we felt like, okay, I
Oh, I
think
think
this
we
I
might
is
have lost
Yeah,
him.
we lost him, but
oh, okay. Did you guys lose me? Am I
Yeah,
we
you
keep
did.
going.
It cut out for a second.
oh, sorry. Am I back? You got me?
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
back.
keep
You're
going.
good.
Hmm.
So yeah, so we ended up telling everybody, and everyone, we were all excited. And the fun part about it was we went to find out, because Jenny, if you know Jenny, she is not good with surprises. She wants to know right now. So we scheduled a thing. It was actually on my birthday to go find out the sex of the baby, and found out it's a boy. And I, of course, was over the moon. And um, what made it fun too was that it was uh, the due date. They gave us three due dates: April 11th, April 12th, or April 13th. And April 12th is my dad's birthday, and so it was kind of fun to see that. And Jenny's like, "Oh, that's not going to happen anyways. They don't know." And yeah, you're right. We have no idea. And so um, April 11th comes, and Jenny and I are just walking, walking, walking. And we go to bed that night, and early in the morning, she's having what I thought were Braxton Hicks, but we're first time parents. We're literally going down to the second. Okay, nope, it was 10 seconds. No way, no way. They said
Yeah.
5 to 7 or
Yep.
whatever it
Yep.
was. And
Yeah.
so we're new parents. So they're however many apart, and I'm like, all right, well, I'll just take a shower. I'll get ready, and they're getting more close together, or sorry, not seconds, minutes, 5 to 7 minutes apart. And oh, they're 12 minutes apart, or they're 13 minutes apart. So I take a shower, I get ready. We already had a bag ready to go just in case, and so we hop in the car, and she's like feeling like we're gonna have the baby in the car. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So I'm speeding down the freeway. Yeah, I'm speeding down the freeway because the hospital we're going to is 30 minutes away. So she gets there, and the nurse is there too. Oh, this is your first kid. Oh yeah, okay. Sign the form. They're kind of going through the motions, just whatever, slow motion. This baby isn't coming for a while. She gets in the room. She gets checked, and all their eyes get really big, and she's writhing in pain.
Well, yeah.
And she's like, "Give me the epidural. Give me the epidural." And the nurse is like, "Sorry, hon, it's too late. We got to have this baby." And I look over at my mother-in-law, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, are you kidding me?" So they rush everybody in, get everything ready. I mean, she's, so we get there at four. I don't know. We check into the room at four. It was about like at 4:20 in the morning. She has Kai's born at 4:40 in the morning, 20 minutes later. Her first kid. And I remember thinking, and when it happened, they took him immediately, and put him in this little bed. And it didn't go as you see in movies and in TV shows and stuff. And I thought, oh, this is interesting. Something's wrong. And Oh, he may have swallowed some meconium on his way out, and so he needs to, we need to check him. And I didn't get to cut the cord. I didn't, there was none of that stuff because of how quick everything went. And so, you know, I remember crying because it was a miracle, to me
Yeah.
after all that we had been through before that. And just one stupid little cell could go wrong and grow into millions of cancer cells, to see the birth of your first child and, how many things could go wrong there. And so and then they did go wrong, I mean, they took him away. It wasn't too crazy. It was only for about 20 or 30 minutes. And then they finally brought him back over and, we were able to hold him and, but it was a miracle, you know, for the two of us having gone through what we had been through prior to that. So I was excited. I was having a boy. I was able to share, the boy things with him and be excited for what was to come.
And
Yeah.
on my birthday, so my first
Yeah,
grand
on
on my
Papa's
birthday,
birthday.
actually. Jenny was not very happy about it, but it was a gift to me, and I thought it was great.
Well,
She
yeah, it's hard to
says
get
that,
hide
but it's
behind
it's
that.
kind of cool. Yeah. So
Ah, it's awesome. Yeah.
Well, that's cool. So I love hearing that, that side of it. So just one, last couple questions. So obviously you're really busy nowadays. You have three boys between the ages of what,
yep,
7 and 12?
7 and 11.
Yeah.
12. Yep.
7 and 11. Well, yeah, he's gonna be 12.
So 11, 9, and 6 right now.
Give us a little bit of a taste of what that's like.
Well, I know I'm not the only one. So, but yeah, it's busy. It's funny. The boys love baseball. I wasn't a baseball player growing up. I did basketball and soccer, but they like baseball, which is fine. Products of partially probably their environment, their friends enjoying baseball, but it's busy. Every weeknight we've got something, so it's divide and conquer. It takes a village too, like we said earlier. We've got parents and coaches, helping taking them to practice because we're taking the others to practice, during the week. And so Monday through Friday, pretty much. I mean, my older two are on a competitive team, which makes them travel, and so they practice all week long, and then weekends are filled with tournaments and you know um, and so I try to be supportive as I can because growing up, now that I'm an adult, I see, wow, how did my dad do it? He had a full-time job, but he always seemed to make it to my games, and I just want to make sure my boys know the
Yeah.
same thing. Like, oh wow, okay, dad, it's important to me, so it's important to dad, and he's at my games, and they won't know it now, but when they get older and realize like, oh yeah, full-time job and other children to worry about, but dad was there, so it's busy. I mean, Brody practices Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Kai is intermingled with that Tuesday, Thursday, but I think he's practicing other days too, not to mention church stuff.
Right.
Grayson now is starting, he'll start some rec ball. He was playing with a comp team for a little bit, but we decided he was too young for that. We didn't really want to go down that road quite yet with him. But so he's going to be playing some rec ball here shortly, and so it'll be all three boys back in baseball again. And you know,
Yeah.
It's fun though. I enjoy playing ball with the boys and watching their games and
and we
what
do. We all play together. We go outside and throw the ball around, and I don't know how to coach them, but I just pick from what their coaches say to do, and so I try to help them best as I can. And
Yeah.
yeah.
So, yeah, I love that. Then the last thing before we kind of get away, and we're done is I want to try having you brag about your kids for a minute. Each one just take something and brag about them for a second, and then we'll say, yeah, we'll be done.
well, you know what I will say? They're all three, so I'll brag about all three together as a whole in this one subject is they're good boys in school. Every one of their teachers, we had parent teacher conference recently, and they all said they are shining stars in my class. I go to them like Kai, for instance, he's my oldest. He's 11. His teacher, when she was gone for a little while, she had surgery or something, and the substitute was wondering, and she said, "You know what? Go to my boys. My boys will know what to do." And by her boys, she meant the group of 3 or 4 boys in her class, and one of them was Kai.
Yeah.
And she knows she can always rely on him. He's always a good boy. Brody, the same thing. His teacher was gone for a little while, and she said the same thing about him, and Grayson too. So they're definitely like their mother that way. They're smart. They learn things quickly. Um, Kai is the oldest child, so he's got a little bit of oldest child in him. He's a very straight arrow, follows the rules. If people aren't doing that, it drives them crazy. Did you guys lose me again?
No,
Sorry.
we're good.
Keep going.
And then Brody, he's the very fun-loving, outgoing, you know, just wants to be doing stuff all the time, outside playing football, playing basketball, playing baseball, whatever. For having friends over, he's that kid. Grayson, he's like the hype man. Like if you guys know who Flavor Flav is, Flavor Flav, he wears that big clock around his neck. That's Grayson. Grayson's the hype man, dancing, partying. He's a lot like Jenny in that regard. Just likes he's a partying a 6-year-old.
It's so
Um,
funny.
so yeah, it's a good time. It's never a dull moment at my house for sure.
That's
So
so funny. Well, I'll
yeah.
say I'll say one quick story about Brody that sticks out in my mind. I had a pretty bad spill on my bike riding to work that basically just peeled my hand up. It was maybe a month or so later. We went up to I think we went to Jackson Hole, something like that. We went somewhere on our Thanksgiving vacation or something, and Brody was like, I was helping him out of the car while we were on that vacation, and I went to go help him, and you know, he was maybe 4 or 5, maybe.
Probably 3 or 4.
Yeah, and I went to go, help him out, and to help him get out of the car, and he's like, "But you're hurt, but your hand, right?" And he like had in his mind like he wanted to be sensitive to and I was completely taken aback because I didn't even think about it, and I was like, "Wow, yeah, it was cool." So a cool bragging moment for Brody, something I'll always
Yeah,
remember about his
he's
his.
definitely he's more cognizant of other people's feelings, and yeah, he's more sensitive that way than the other two for sure.
Yeah, it stuck out in my mind, but I love your boys. That they were so much fun to hang out with. So, uh, Kyle, that was thank you for your perspective there. There's some cool things that I hope the people, if there's anybody that tunes in, that's awesome. We're excited. Hopefully, you can glean something from Kyle's experience there on digging deep. Um, Thanks for coming on, Kyle. I know it's we were able to finally find some time where you weren't traveling with the team and doing stuff with the boys, so which I know you're going to get back to that. So thanks for joining us. Dad, as always, thanks for joining us. Any final things any advice or things that you want to say before we part ways, both Kyle and Dad?
Anything
Any
from
things
you,
that
Kyle?
you any advice, Kyle, that you would give to someone
I mean, the
as a
way
father?
things are going nowadays, don't be afraid to be a man. We get rid of the idea of this toxic masculinity stuff. We need masculine men and we need feminine women. That's just how things go. Not and it's not necessarily bad if you're not fully that way either way. But you know, don't be afraid to be a masculine male.
I like it.
And live your legacy. That's my motto, right, Clay? So
Yep,
live
exactly.
your
And I'll,
legacy. Be that person that you want to be and live it. So
yep. Be the dad that you want to be and make the small things matter because that's that's where your legacy comes in. Like we talked about Sam, right?
yeah.
Be Make an impact for other young men and your children so that they can, be the person they think that you are.
Right.
Right. It's true.
All right, live your legacy,
Hey,
everybody listening. Guys, thanks for joining me. It was a pleasure. And tune in for the next episode. Excited.
yep, we'll be there, hopefully.